Short-handed, less talented, and facing a Boston juggernaut? Well, that's nothing new for the Miami Heat, who controlled Game 2, playing at a faster pace, spreading the offense, and playing incredible defense throughout 48 minutes. Put those brooms away, Celtics fans, because the Heat aren't done just yet. We break it all down in today's episode of Locked On Heat.
Woo!
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com. Joining me as always, credentialed Heat media member David Ramil. However you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play. Ooh, that one. It was a little close at the end, David. It was a little close. I didn't feel good even when Celtics fans were leaving with a minute left in that game. I was like, I've watched the playoffs this week. It ain't over till it's over.
Celtics fans leaving early? I mean, that's impossible, right?
Never,
it doesn't happen. Otherwise, just in Miami only.
Yeah, only Heat fans leave early, right? The Heat go into Boston and did what nobody thought they could do. They get the series split as they head back to Miami for Game 3. Huge games from Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo. You know the credit cookies are coming later on. A franchise record for made three-pointers and a playoff game. The Heat took the air out of TD Garden. Celtics fans going home early. You know what they did, David? You know what the Heat did?
No, what do they do, Wes?
Code Red.
What you call that? Code Red.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Code Red.
You can't keep getting away with it!
How's it feel, David? How's that feel?
I mean, I did predict it, but I think I wasn't
We'll
quite
both be
sure
taking
that it was
victory
gonna
laps on a couple of things this episode, but go ahead.
No, I mean, listen, and for anybody wondering, my voice was hoarse well before the game. It was something that was building up since yesterday, so it wasn't like I screamed silly or anything like that during the game. I can't. I've got a 5-year-old trying to sleep in the next room as I watch the game.
Yeah,
so
for those
screaming
listening
for
on
this.
audio and not watching on YouTube, no, I did not get Doc Rivers as a guest co-host for today's episode. That's just David with a horse.
No, because I'd be throwing you under the bus. We would have won if it weren't for you, Wes. You know, we
No,
could have
you
won
blame the
season.
travel staff now. That's that's the line.
Microphones aren't set up properly. My light here isn't right positioned. You know, I don't
Is
know
that what the
what's going on.
Celtics are going to be blaming, or what?
I'll find somebody to blame, right? I mean, it's going to be a glorious 3 days in Boston as they kind of ruminate over this loss, though. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But,
Yes.
you know, the game plan, we talked about it. We talked about following game one, predictions aside or anything like that. We knew that Miami had to play a different style of game, and they had to shoot the three more. You talked about the shot ratio having to change dramatically. It did. We saw a lot more of Nikola Jovic playing defense on Kristaps Porzingis, and I think that made things infinitely more difficult for Porzingis, and I think it was pretty effective. They played a much more spread out offense and defense. They were trying to keep them away, keep them from shooting the three, and they did limit their three-point attempts and their accuracy, certainly. They let Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum basically get what they wanted, and they negated the supporting cast. They really took everybody else out there. Sam Hauser, who was such a huge factor in game one, well, the entire Boston bench scored less than he did in the first game. Payne Pritchard wasn't really much of a factor. They didn't get the kind of supporting output that we saw from them for most of the season. And in game one, Drew Holiday struggled. Derek White, although he caught fire a little bit in the game, unfortunately, and that made things a little bit more tight than Miami probably would have preferred. He wasn't really much of a factor for most of the game. And just Miami's constant picking up of the pace. We talked about this. I remember saying specifically catch and shoot opportunities. It seemed like they didn't have any at all in game one. Well, they were just letting it fly. As soon as the ball was swing, it would wind up in Haywood Highsmith's hand. Tyler Herro, Caleb Martin, Niko Jovic, they were just shooting it with confidence, and those shots fell. Again, as you pointed out, a franchise record. Great adjustments from Erik Spoelstra. The shots were falling, and Miami played a really good game, and of course, it led to an incredible victory.
Yeah, it was Cinderella ball. That was exactly what we talked about after game one is, hey, that whatever you did in game one like the zone defense, trying to get it in the mud. That's not going to work with these guys. It does not work with this Boston Celtics team. They had to play Cinderella ball. And I said, you've got to outscore, you've got to outshoot the Celtics from three-point range. You got to take more threes than they did. They took 32 threes. The Heat took 43. The Heat made 23. The Celtics made 12. That 30-point margin that favored the Celtics in game one from beyond the arc flipped in this game. The Heat outscored the Celtics by 30 points from beyond the arc. And when you talk about adjustments, David, I think Erik Spoelstra's biggest adjustment was cosplay as the 2018 Houston Rockets. That's essentially what this team was. I have not seen this Heat team for the last 5 months. Everything that the Heat have been for the last 5 months was different tonight. It was exactly like those old Houston Rockets teams where they just used math to their advantage, and it worked. And you'd think about it, in this roster, without Jimmy Butler, it has great three-point shooters. They leaned into Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, Nikola Jovic, who's a 40% three-point shooter, Jaime Jaquez and Caleb Martin catching fire at a timely game, at a timely point where they had been struggling a little bit with their three-point shot. So all of that stuff happened. And defensively, they took the zone away. Another adjustment that you and I called out. Like, if you wanted to have a prediction of what was going to happen in this game, just listen to the last couple episodes we did going into this one. We're not really ones for like victory laps like that, but man, did we call it. And so, yeah, they have Jovic on KP. Bam's allowed to roam a little bit more. He's a little bit more disruptive. The Heat were able to ramp up some of the steals and create offense out of their defense when they weren't, and get out and transition and limit Boston's half-court defense. And I thought that was really important. And they didn't overhelp defensively either, right?
Yep.
And that's partly coming out of the zone, which the zone is designed. Obviously, everybody helps in different spaces on the court. But by going back to mostly single coverage and a little bit of press and stuff like that, they weren't overhelping, and they were basically living with Boston getting into the paint. Like, it just felt like anytime Jason Tatum wanted it, he could get to he got to the rim. Every time he wanted it, he was able to get Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson switched onto him, and he was able to get to the basket. Boston outscored Miami 46-26 in the paint. But let's keep in mind the math again, David, right?
Right.
Miami was willing to live with that because they were going to get outscored by 20 in the paint, but they were going to outscore the Celtics by 30 from beyond the arc. That's the math. They got the equation down right. And I can't believe what I saw, but it was a bend, don't break defense. And then you get Bam Adebayo at the very end there, hitting some key shots, not from three-point range, key fadeaways, jumpers, things like that. Once it kind of got down into like the 4 minutes left, they were kind of able to go back to what it is that they do that makes them special, which is play good defense, get Boston's offense in the mud, make some tough shots. And I don't think we could say enough about how great Tyler and Bam were in this game.
No, I know. And I know we'll say that for the next segment, but I love the defensive adjustment. Like, you know what? It's so important to just let kind of Tyler, Nico, Caleb, whoever it was defending JB or Tatum, kind of just, have to live with it one way or the other. You give up the shot, you know what? They're great scorers. They're all stars. This is what they're supposed to do. But as a result,
and they played great. I'm sorry, just for the box score part, 28 points for Tatum on 50% shooting, 33 points for Jaylen Brown on 56.5% shooting. They were both great tonight. But it's almost like Miami was like, go ahead and have yours. Because if you look at their final box score, it almost looks weird because it looks like they played a whole game and nobody else did. Kristaps Porzingis went 1 for 9, like only 6 points. It was just 0 points for Pritchard, 6 points for Horford. Yeah. It looks weird.
But what's the difference there in between what we saw in game one? Only 4 assists combined between those two. They were attacking one-on-one, and that's all it was because they didn't have those open shooters on the perimeter because they weren't playing the zone, because they weren't overhelping. They were able to defend guys like Hauser or whomever out on the perimeter. They can shoot. Everybody in that starting lineup could put up the 3. No Drew Holiday 3, no Kristaps Porzingis 3. They just took that out of the equation, and that was really able to limit Boston's offense to a huge degree. So you know what? You give up those 2 points, give up 50-something points to those two players easily. If that's the way you have to choose over what we saw in game one, you take that 100%, 100 times out of 100, and it worked for Miami tonight because they were able to balance it out. As you said, not just balance it out, they were able to be in the black, because of their three-point shooting, because that was just sensational. Like, we haven't seen that at any point in time during the regular season. It was amazing for them to flip the
literally ever in playoff history for the Miami Heat, the most threes ever made for in a playoff game for Miami. And you mentioned all that stuff like, okay, you're gonna get your points, but we're gonna limit your assists. And Joe Mazzulla's whole scheme is 5-out ball, teamwork, get the ball pinging, go side to side, all the ball movement and stuff, and everybody eats. It felt like Spoelstra baited Tatum and Brown, and he was like, hey, like of course you're not gonna be able to not take the easy 2-pointer. What basketball player wouldn't be able to take that easy 2-pointer? And he was just like, yeah, come on, keep taking it. It's like, yeah, we're going to let you get your switch onto Tyler Herro. And Tatum is probably looking around at some point and was like, why do they keep giving me this switch? It felt like they were baiting him into it for exactly the reason you said, because you can get yours, but we're going to take away everything else from everybody else. And if this game breaks right and we get a few threes to fall that didn't fall in game 1, then we're going to have a chance at the end of this game. And that's exactly what happened. Cinderella ball, baby. Cinderella ball. Code red. One more time.
Code red.
You can't keep getting away with it.
It's code red, baby. We're going to get to our credit cookies after the break. Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo, who else is going to be getting the cookies? We'll get to that next here on Locked On Heat. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Thanks to y'all, we are officially at 13,000 YouTube subscribers. We appreciate the support there. Keep hitting that subscribe button. Hit that now. Also follow us on your favorite podcast app. 5-star ratings and reviews do go a long way, and we appreciate the support. Well, David, it is another Miami Heat win, our first Miami Heat win of these playoffs. It's time to hand out some credit cookies. What kind of cookies are the Heat getting tonight?
I don't know. What's it? Maybe a little shamrock-shaped cookie like the ones they give out on March, around St. Patty's Day. You know, you always go to Publix and they always have those shamrock shaped with the green sugar on top. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Just bite them. One big
delicious.
Bite.
Or just
all the way
bite, or just throw it all away. Who cares? You get the cookie, whatever. You know what?
Yeah,
I'm giving out credit cookies to the entire starting lineup tonight. They're the recipients of all cookies, all 10 cookies being distributed evenly. I loved Bam's game. It was a little understated, not quite like the kind of punch maybe a lot of people want from him, but was very effective. Missed a couple free throws, which kind of, I think, took one of the cookies away from him, but his overall game was spectacular. I give him 2. Tyler gets 3. Talk about a bounce back. Not only was he hitting those shots from the perimeter, but making plays for others. A career high 13 assists, I think, is what he wound up with. He had a sensational game. He gets 3 credit cookies. Caleb Martin, who many people, Heat fans, wanted to write him off, had a huge game hitting for the
Code
perimeter,
Red Caleb.
5 of 6. Yes, he gets 3 credit cookies as well, and then 1 apiece for Nikola Jovic and 1 for Jaime Jaquez, who continued his steady, I don't give a damn that I'm a rookie performance. He was great, and Nico, with his defense, with his three-point shooting, he was a great factor as well, letting it fly. Go, Nico, go. Really, really impressive showing for a 20-year-old. Yeah, he had a couple turnovers, but other than that, he had a really effective game.
Nikola Jovic, man, 11 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Yeah, he had 5 turnovers. I don't care. He had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block. That's a box score stuffer. Before we get to Tyler and Bam and Caleb and all these guys, Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez Jr., no matter what happens the rest of this series, no matter what happens the rest of these playoffs, no matter what happens, I think just from these 2 games, and, you know, obviously everything we saw in the regular season from both of those guys.
Sure. Yeah.
The Heat have 2 dudes. They have 2 legit dudes who could play for them in the playoffs. You mentioned Jaime Jaquez, dating back to the play-in tournament, not afraid of going into Joel Embiid, not afraid of the Chicago Bulls in a do-or-die situation, has not been afraid of the Boston Celtics. That guy has not been afraid of anything. He had one shot. He was on the fast break, had the ball, kind of hesitated, faked Al Horford out of his shoes, and then finished with a layup. Just like unreal composure for a 22-year-old in that spot. And then Nikola Jovic in this game, just the quick trigger, man. It's like he's either really confident or doesn't know it's the playoffs. And I don't know which one it is because he shoots like nothing matters. And I love it.
Right.
Like the confidence with the quick trigger. And he's shooting like 40% now. That guy's a legit three-point shooter. Is he what? He's a top 4 three-point shooter on the Heat roster right now, I think. But
Yeah, you'd have
Tyler,
to say that with
Duncan. You could probably put like Kevin Love or Terry Rozier over him, but he's like kind of right in that spot, right in that zone with those guys. So
no, I mean, a great game from him. Like he's 20 years old. Like I had made the point when we were kind of previewing the series and talking even about game one, like the youth and the inexperience, why they were so shell shocked in game one. But Nico is 20 years old, and here he is playing like the most important game of his incredible basketball career. And he just doesn't seem to care. Like it doesn't seem to bother him. He's like laughing. We've talked to him so many times. He's kind of silly that way. Like he has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that he's not playing basketball at a high level. Just because he's smiling on the court doesn't mean that he's like scared of the moment or anything like that. His willingness to take these shots, to defend. Like there were times there where Jason Tatum saw him and you could see his eyes light up thinking he was going to be able to get past Jovic. That wasn't the case at all.
No, it was great. And then Caleb Martin, what a time to come alive from three-point range, 5 of 6 from three-point range. I don't know if it had anything to do with the Brian Scalabrine fallout or anything like that, or if he was just eventually going to make shots. I don't know how fired up you can get in order to make shots, but
getting booed by the Garden crowd. Yeah.
Great. And what a time for him to come alive. It was huge for them. Let's get to Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo.
Can I say one thing about Caleb?
Yes,
Can I say one thing I think the booing kind of inspired him. He's like, oh, 100%. Yeah, that's right. I don't mind being the villain. Like, I don't care. Like, yeah, you say whatever you want to. Code red,
hand in front of my face.
Yeah, I don't care. Like, say what you're going to say. I'm going to go out and do what I did last year in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo were so important in this game, and it was so loud to me what they were able to do, particularly with Jimmy Butler out. It was like, what was Miami's offense going to be? And it could have been just chucking threes. And sometimes they did just chuck threes. I loved it that it was early in the shot clock and whatever, and I have no problem with that. That's what you had to do. But especially late in the game, as that game went on and Boston started figuring some things out, the Heat weren't getting those threes as early in the shot clock anymore because Boston was starting to close out and press up on whoever was out there. If it was Haywood Highsmith or if it was Duncan Robinson, it didn't matter. They were pressing up and trying to take that away from them. And Herro and Bam got really patient, and they developed a two-man game as that game went on, and everything, particularly in that fourth quarter, was born out of their pick and roll. And there were times where Tyler Herro, I know he gets kind of attacked for over dribbling at times. He had to over dribble in this game. There were so many times where Bam would come up and set the screen, and Drew Holiday does what Drew Holiday does, fights over the screen like it's not even there, and then you've got Tatum or Brown or somebody else on the other side of that screen ready to corral the ball handler, whoever it is. And Tyler Herro was like, okay, I got to reject the screen this way. I'm going to turn around, about face, come back around, use the Bam Adebayo screen. Bam's going to rescreen for me. Hey, we're going to have to do that again because Drew Holiday, I just can't shake this guy. Now Derek White's over here coming with his help defense. Let me go back around that screen. And he's just kind of dribbling in and out. And eventually he just gets those guys. Like when Derek White takes that little step in, he was so good and so smart about finding that exact shooter who needed to get the ball. He sees that defender take that step inward, and he sprayed it out to the shooter, and those guys were knocking down shots. I thought Tyler Herro's game, his efficiency, I think, is what most people are going to pay attention to, but his floor game is my takeaway from this.
No, good point. Like his usage rate today, I wonder what it was. He had the ball in his hands a lot, and the offense was working through him, and it is a great point because he was finding those seams. He was holding on to the ball just so he could create offense for himself or for others. He was taking those shots, but of his 15 field goal attempts, 11 of them from behind the line. Like that is such a, we talked about, the shot ratio. Nobody embodied it better than Tyler. Like he was just playing a masterful game. Wasn't going to the mid-range as much, wasn't trying to create that sort of offense. It was all from the perimeter or making plays for others, waiting for a defender or a second help defender to come so he could make the right pass, find a cutter or somebody else who might have a better look. It was a masterful game by Tyler Herro, balancing the offense very effectively, making plays for himself and others. Really, really well done. And perhaps his best game in the playoffs. I mean, even going back to the Orlando bubble.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, in the bubble, it was just catch and shoot, making shots off of everything Jimmy and Bam and everybody else was creating. Him and Bam were the offense tonight. My two favorite Tyler Herro buckets before we move on here. So the Celtics cut the lead. It's 102 to 96. So they cut the lead to 6 with 3 minutes and 15 seconds to go. Spo calls a timeout. They come out. Tyler Herro comes off of that Bam screen, draws 2 defenders. Tatum starts to leave Caleb Martin. Tatum takes 1 step in towards where Bam and Tyler Herro are running their 2-man game. Herro, boom, sprays it like a 10-yard pass to Caleb Martin. Hits him, or 10-foot pass. Hits Caleb Martin right as the defense react. Caleb drills it. Big three-pointer. He ends up finishing 5 or 6 from three-point range. Just spoon-fed those catch-and-shoot attempts from Tyler. And then a couple possessions later, Tyler Herro goes over Kristaps Porzingis, leans into him, very Jimmy Butler-like, kind of with his upper body leaning forward, and just tips it in off the glass and makes that tough shot. And next thing you know, the Heat, it's like they just had to make those tough shots. And we said it after game 1. Cinderella ball. 40 minutes of Cinderella ball. You get it down to crunch time. You give yourself a chance. And then you can do Miami Heat stuff. Play good defense. Make some tough shots. That's exactly what happened tonight. Bam Adebayo, really quick, just totally outplayed Kristaps Porzingis. 21 points for Bam. 6 points for Kristaps Porzingis on 1 of 9 shooting. Bam was 9 of 13, 70% shooting for Bam Adebayo in this game. 10 rebounds. Kristaps Porzingis was a non-factor. I think it was just a bad Porzingis game. It'll probably be his worst game of the series. He's not going to go 1 for 9 very often. And I think the Heat did a good job defending him. It doesn't account for 8 of 9 shots being missed, but
I don't know about that. Like I think he had they allowed him to operate even when they had a smaller defender. But it's not like Porzingis has ever been known as a post-up player. Like he's not He's not the kind of guy who's going to back somebody down.
Doesn't do it at a high frequency. His numbers are good when he does it, but he doesn't do it a lot, and he's not doing it against Bam.
7'3". Yeah, he's 7'3". You figure he's going to get those shots over almost anybody. But the reality was he couldn't back down Tyler or Caleb. They just leaned into it, tried to make him work with the lower body, and he just wasn't able to get to his spots effectively. And the officiating, as much as Celtics fans are probably going to point to it, I think it was pretty fair. Like the Celtics certainly got a lot of calls their way, and I think they did a good job, the officials, knowing that tensions might have spilled over from game 1. They let both teams kind of play through it. Porzingis falling down on a number of occasions, and you know what? It wasn't a foul. It was not a foul. They didn't call it, and rightfully so.
Tatum got a couple of nice calls going his way, favorable calls in the second half. But you're right, mostly they just let those guys play, which is why
he still chucked at the line, though, didn't he? Huh?
He went 1 for 2, right, on that last one. So ball don't lie. What can we take away from this game that might be repeatable going forward in the series? We'll get to that next year on Locked On Heat. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. Maybe you're a Celtics fan. You're pasty. You haven't seen the sun in months. Tom Brady's been gone too long. The Red Sox are rebuilding. But hey, at least the Celtics are going to sweep the Heat. No. Instead, you leave with a minute left in the game to go drink your sorrows away at a bar where you're probably going to get into a fight with your redheaded cousin. Therapy can be different for everybody. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or a flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and more. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get a gift card to her for her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong. Get thoughtful gifts she deserves with your convenience and anything you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead for flowers and gifts so that they arrive at her door on Mother's Day with DoorDash. Shop with savings that make her proud. With a Dash app membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fees, apply. Terms apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Keep it here for the entirety of the Miami Heat playoff run. And eventually when the offseason comes, we ain't going anywhere.
Ha. Not yet. Not yet, anyway. Yeah, we'll be giving you not a live episode, but we'll be going right after Game 3 on Saturday at Kaseya Center. So that will be, stay tuned for that.
Very excited for that. Yeah, special mid-weekend episode because that's what you do in the playoffs. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions for the post-game show using the hashtag AskLOHeat. You can email us lockedonheat@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at LockedOnHeat. This question comes from Professor X, who writes in, this series might be a lot closer than initially anticipated. Do you think they can actually pull off the upset, David?
No, I don't. Not realistically. Like, I mean, at some point, I think Missoula will adjust. I think they'll make adjustments too. That doesn't mean that I don't think Miami can make it more challenging. I don't know if it can go 6 games. I don't know if it can go 7. But I think, Miami can certainly do things like they did tonight and try to control things. But you also have to look at what went so right for Miami, their three-point shooting. And given it's so atypical of what we've seen from Miami's offense,
right? I
don't know that you can expect them to shoot as many threes. I mean, what was their final? They shot 70-something field goals, of which 75 field goal attempts, 43 of them were from beyond the line, and they hit 54% of those. Like, that does not feel entirely sustainable. But hell, that was last year's playoff run, so why not? Maybe they could do it again anyway.
Who knows, man? I have no idea. Obviously, look, nobody's gonna even though they Heat won on Game 2, nobody's gonna favor them to win this series, and I don't blame them. They're gonna look at exactly what you just said. Hey, they shot 54% from 3. This happens. This has basically been the story of other playoff series. You look at the Clippers-Mavericks series. The team that shot like 40+% from three-point range has won those games, and they split those games in LA. So yeah, this is going to happen. And you do trust Boston, who is the better three-point shooting team, to kind of be better at three-point shooting, and maybe not Miami. You wouldn't trust any team to shoot 54% from 3. My question is, do they have to shoot 54% from 3 in order to win games this series? Probably not. They're going to have to compensate in other areas. But boy, it was close. Even though despite them shooting this percentage from three-point range, this was a close game in the end, in part because of what they allowed Boston to take at the rim. Is there a way to still bait them into those twos while taking away a few more of those shots? If they clean up some of the turnovers and some of those offensive rebounds, particularly the ones from the second half and some of that third quarter, maybe this game is more of a blowout. But I don't know. It was a little disheartening that like Boston in Game 1 blew the doors off of Miami by the same amount from three-point range and ended up blowing the Heat out. And the Heat outscored the Celtics by that same amount, and it ended up being a close game in the end. But who knows? So you know where I stand on this. I don't think that they're going to win this series, but also I really don't care. I don't care. I told you going in this series, no Jimmy Butler, 0 expectations, nothing to lose. Let me see the young guys go. Let me see this team play fast, play good basketball. This was the best aesthetically pleasing basketball game the Heat have played in 2 years.
I wouldn't go that far.
It was
but
play like
recent memory, certainly.
I said this earlier, but you just cosplay as the 2018 Houston Rockets. I'm like, just do that. You've had this in the bag the whole time. Just do this. Do this. This is so much more fun to watch. Maybe it doesn't have to be 43 3-pointers, but get up there.
Yeah. Their style of play was going to adjust without Jimmy here. And again, I feel like so much of what happened in the first game was just not quite expecting or not making that shift and not being prepared for that moment. There are jitters that come with the playoffs. You have those young players. You have Tyler, who had so much to prove. He played a bad game. but they made the emotional adjustment, and you have to give them credit for doing that, because that was, I think, the difference today is that they never had those moments where they just let Boston kind of run wild with everything and control the pace of the game. Miami answered at every opportunity, played their style, changed everything over the course of the game, and just really adjusted well. And you know what? It paid off tonight. I'll tell you what, though, if they split the series in Miami, ask me that question again, and I might give you a different answer.
Eric writes in, do you believe that this series is a make or break series for Tyler Herro? And then before you answer, we got this other comment from Noah on Twitter who wrote basically the answer to this question. Tonight was the exact kind of night tonight was the exact kind of Tyler Herro performance that I've been banging the table for months. He scored 24 points on only 13 shots, mostly threes. This is what we need from him. Be aggressive and set things up, limit the tough 2-point attempts. Great performance. I agree. I think Noah's just sums it up pretty well. This is, if Tyler Herro, and I'm just going to say this, David, if Tyler Herro were to tilt his game entirely in this direction, his reputation that was dragged through the mud last summer would be flipped. He would be valued so much more highly, not just to the Heat, but across the NBA. Right. He would be thought of as such a better player because he would be a better player. By not taking those long 2-pointers, by saying, hey, it's beyond the arc, and then I'm going to get guys set up, and I'm going to really be aggressive with this 2-man game with Bam Adebayo. And without Jimmy Butler there, he has the space to do these things. You know, he's got a little bit of a longer leash with the offense. But if he were to... But just like the 3-point shooting, the quick shots, the not overthinking about it when he's shooting, he is elite on catch and shoot and one-dribble threes, and he should just be taking those more. And I love his shot chart tonight, and I would love to see him just repeat that. Because that, of all the things we're talking about, if there's one repeatable thing, that's repeatable for Tyler. He is entirely in control of that.
If he was to play this style over the regular season for 82 games or however long he does play, like, he could be the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. And that's just not the case, though, because the X factor in all this is Jimmy Butler. The ball operates through him. He brings it up. He sets the pace. He's the one who controls it. So it's all about the roster construction. Tyler's role with Jimmy out there is being the scorer who gets the ball and has to operate and control the offense that way. He has to be able to make those shots when he gets them. Tonight, it was him setting the table, making plays for everybody else. So,
but even when
I think it's all about...
Even when he's playing with Jimmy, he's getting the catch and shoot attempts. Like, he has the opportunity to just lean into the 3-point stuff and be more he does have opportunity. And Jimmy is very like, hey, if you could do it, I won't do it. That's kind of Jimmy Butler mode in the regular season. I don't know. I don't know if he'd be the best point guard in the Eastern Conference, but he would be a borderline all-star in a way that he's not right now. Just by tilting your math more into the 3-point direction than 2-pointers, instead of averaging 20 points a game, he could be averaging 23, 24 points per game, right? And all of a sudden now you're efficient. The knock on Tyler Herro right now is he's inefficient. And like, all that stuff just raises your game, and then and people have a lot less problem with it if it looks like this. So we'll see what happens in Game 3. That's Saturday night. We'll have another episode for you before then. But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcast app.